정수리 안 좋다 해가지고 펌프 다 뽑았잖아.
엄마지. 아이.
What if I grew up in South Korea? It's a question that I've always asked myself. I left Korea when I was 7, old enough to remember the smell of my grandparents' home, but young enough that the country that I remember isn't the same one that exists today. My values, my worldview, my sense of right and wrong were shaped growing up in New Zealand. But pieces of South Korea stayed with me, in my parents' voices, in the food on our dinner table, and in the expectations I carried, sometimes proudly, sometimes heavily. But I always wondered, who would I be if I never left? How would my childhood been different? Weekends at my grandparents' house, running into cousins at family gatherings without needing a translator for my own emotions. Celebrating Chuseok and Seollal the way they were meant to be celebrated, surrounded by people, not distance. Growing up in New Zealand, I watched my friends visit their grandparents every weekend. They talk about family dinners and holiday traditions, while I sat quietly pretending I didn't care. But I did. Maybe in Korea, I wouldn't have felt like an outsider. If I grew up in South Korea, my Korean would have been sharper. Not something I repair every time I visit, but something that grows with me. Would I still feel split between two worlds? Or would I finally feel anchored in one? Sometimes I envy the version of me who never had to think about identity, who didn't have to explain where they're really from, who didn't feel guilty for forgetting words, and the language barrier between my grandparents and I. Maybe in South Korea, identity would have been simple. Or maybe it would have been complicated in a different way. I think about the friends I would have had, the people I never met, the versions of me that laughed with them. In New Zealand, my friendships were shaped by being different, by being Korean, but also not Korean enough, by hovering between cultures like a permanent in-between. If I'd grown up in Korea, I would have blended in, perhaps too well. Would I have lost the parts of me that grew out of being an outsider? Would I still carry the same empathy, the same cultural flexibility, the same resilience that only immigrants understand? What hurts me the most isn't the life I didn't live. It's all the moments I wasn't there for. The birthdays, the weddings, the funerals, the ordinary family dinners I only heard about over the phone. And every time I visit Korea, I'm reminded of how much time has passed without me. My grandparents are older, weaker, quieter. Every visit, I noticed something new. A slower walk, a softer voice, a little more effort just to stand up. This visit might be my last time seeing them. No guarantee of our next meet. It's also hard to see your parents not being there for their own parents. The grief they'll have to endure. The guilt they must feel. I've missed so much. In another version of my life, I would have grown up with them right there. I would have been part of everything. The good moments, the hard ones, and all the small, forgettable days in between. But instead, I only get snapshots. Short visits, rushed catch-ups, and goodbyes that always feel too soon. 물론 뉴질랜드에서 자란 건 정말 감사한 일이에요. 다문화 환경 속에서 자라다 보니 여러 관점과 다양한 문화를 자연스럽게 접할 수 있었죠. 무엇보다도 자유로웠어요. 스스로를 표현할 자유, 새로운 걸 탐험할 자유, 그리고 나만의 전통을 만들어갈 자유. 뉴질랜드는 세상을 여유 있게 바라보는 법을 가르쳐줬고 어린 시절 그 혼란스러운 정체성의 시기 속에서도 내가 어디에서 왔는지 돌아보게 만들었어요. 정답은 없다고 생각해요. 더 나은 삶도 더 뒤처진 삶도 없는 거죠. 그저 다른 삶일 뿐이죠. 그리고 제가 살아온 그 삶, 조금은 복잡하고 때로는 외롭기도 했지만 참 아름다웠던 그 시간들이 결국 지금의 저를 만들었어요. 그 시간들은 제게 공감을 알려주고 호기심을 심어주고 두 세계 사이에서 존재하는 법을 알려줬어요. 두 개의 정체성을 품고 살아가는 방법도요. 그래서 제가 어떤 사람이 되고 싶은지 스스로 선택할 수 있게 해줬어요. 아마 한국에서 자랐다면 한국 문화에 더 깊게 연결되었겠죠? 좀 더 야심도 있었을 테고, 더 전통적이었을 테고, 스스로에게 더 확신이 있었을지도 몰라요. 하지만 저는 지금 이곳에서 비로소 나를 받아들이게 됐어요. 그래서 내가 한국에서 자랐다면 아마 많은 게 달라졌겠죠? 아니, 어쩌면 지금처럼 여전히 나를 찾고 있었을지도 몰라요. 정체성이란 어디에서 자랐는지가 아니라 어떻게 성장해 나가는지에 달린 거니까요. 그리고 이것이 제가 성장해온 모습이에요. 두 문화 사이에서, 두 세계 사이에서 그 모든 걸 품고 살아가는 지금의 내 모습 말이에요.